Hello, everybody, and welcome to the CineFiles Extended Cut. This is the show, the sister show, really, to the CineFiles, where we cover the 3 biggest stories of the week and, you know, some stories that didn't quite make the cut. So if you like this, be sure to subscribe to Mojo Talks for more. Guys, welcome. And how's it going? Let's start with that. How's it going?
It's all right.
Good.
It's pretty good.
Ready to talk movies.
Ready to talk
Sick.
movies. I just want to point something out that we're the jean shirt committee right now.
It's
today, if you can notice on the in the video
It's a
version.
thing.
I mean, it's pretty obvious. We're Canadian. We're rocking half a Canadian
We did it
tots.
symmetrically too.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So let's, I mean, we love fashion, but we love movies. We love movies more, guys. So let's go with what you're watching. I want to know what you guys, well, what you're watching. So Justin, let's start with you.
Finally caught up with Annihilation this week.
Oh,
the new
cool.
Alex
Nice.
Garland film based on the movie, based on the book Annihilation, part of a trilogy.
Is it a movie based
Southern
on a movie?
Reach trilogy.
Southern Reach trilogy. I think this movie is really, really interesting. What it reminded me a lot of was the Denis Villeneuve movie from a few years ago, Arrival.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
In that it's like a very cerebral, female-driven science fiction movie that's very low on actual action. This has a bit more in terms of like there are horror elements throughout, but it's just like Alex Garland right now is on a run of making 2 great science fiction movies after Ex Machina.
Right.
And I'm just genuinely excited to see what he's got next, because this movie, I'm really surprised it's not getting the love and attention that it
should be.
That it should be, because it's really, really
Is
something
it
else.
as weird as people are saying?
It's very strange, yeah.
Yeah.
But in a way that's visually interesting. It's not just like plot twists for the sake of plot twists. There's a lot of stuff going on in terms of like the design and like just what's happening on screen, that it's something I've never personally seen before. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I just want to touch upon what Liam said. I you know, you hear that it's such a weird movie and it's like very strange, whereas like you compare it to Arrival, but Arrival I find is like a little bit more emotional and kind of like it has heart, you know.
Yeah.
Easy
Would
to
you
get
say
into,
that
too.
kind of Annihilation has that, or it's completely different in that respect?
There are a lot of elements that are character driven, not nearly as much so as as Arrival, but this, what it lacks in that element, it makes up for in just completely bonkers concepts and really interesting philosophy that drives the plot forward. It's really interesting.
That's totally fair.
It's a very good movie.
Jem, what have you been watching?
In preparation for Isle of Dogs, the Wes Anderson movie that's coming out, I watched the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh, classic.
It's a great movie, very very pink.
Very
Yeah.
big,
That's,
yeah.
The one thing that kind of stuck with me.
That's the one thing. Yeah, I mean, his color schemes are amazing.
It's very nice. It's very pretty.
The movie itself isn't necessarily pretty, though. That's
no,
what I
but
find
like that's
interesting.
the thing. It's like it's
Really?
Like the subject matter is pretty dark
It's a very dark
well,
story.
I guess
That's
yes.
very
From a
true.
story standpoint, it's pretty dark. Yeah.
compared to the visuals. It's like a weird juxtaposition. It's
Yeah.
interesting though.
So good. I think that's maybe my favorite of his. I think
It's a very good movie.
I feel it's like definitely the most accessible of his too. Like it's
Yeah,
like
for
the
sure.
easiest to watch.
Yeah.
Great entry point into Wes Anderson cinematic universe.
It's funny. I just thought the color scheme to this is almost like Annihilation in the whole terms of like that the foggy kind of gas whatever is in that forest.
Oh, that's
It's got a
interesting.
blue
The
pinkish, you
sheen,
know,
the sheen of the shimmer.
neonish colors. Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think any dogs die in that movie, do they?
No, only
He's
cats.
famous,
Spoiler.
very famous for his dogs.
That's
passing
true.
away.
Yeah.
Which is
Making
gonna
I Love
hopefully-
Dogs.
Yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
turn around with I Love Dogs.
Cool.
Good call there.
Liam, you're what have you been watching?
I saw a film in the theater last night.
Oh,
I went
the
to go see
theater.
Game Night. Yeah, not the the theater, I guess. I saw Game Night with Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams.
Nice.
I was just looking for a comedy. I got that. It does a lot of really different things for a comedy. Like there's a lot of things in the movie that I found are way too good to be in a movie like this. Like the
Interesting.
score was done by what's the guy that did Drive?
I know.
Oh.
Yeah, I know who you're talking.
What's his name?
I can't
Cliff
remember.
Martinez.
Cliff Martinez.
Cliff.
And like it's got like a lot of like really ambient synthy for a score for like a comedy,
That
which
is
is
weird, yeah.
weird. What's his name?
Would you say it like doesn't fit? It kind of seems like almost jarring a little bit.
It is a little jarring, and like they try to go for a dark comedy at points, but I find it never gets that like dark enough to like warrant having a score like that.
Right. Right.
Also, oh man, what's his name? I'm blanking.
I mean,
Is director, actor?
No, actor. The guy Meth Damon from
Oh, right.
Black Mirror is in it, and he's fantastic.
Jesse
Plemons.
That's Jesse
Oh,
Plemons.
And
okay, okay.
he's like, he plays this like weirdo neighbor who's just like always trying to get in on their game night.
Man, that guy is always playing weirdos. He's just typecast, I guess, at this point. He's
and,
always playing
he
like
goes
weird
full
guys.
in this movie. I find it takes a lot of elements from other movies. I won't say what it is because there's a twist in it that's very similar to another movie. I
spoilers.
found
We love twists, yeah.
it didn't get me on laugh so much, but it was like enjoyable, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Getting some love critically, I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got some good RT score.
Yeah,
If that
I
matters
found
anymore.
the
But
weak point was the writing for sure.
Interesting.
Everything else, like the shots, like the cinematography, was like weird.
Sounds like
too.
the
Yeah.
score is really interesting, which is not, like you said.
Very interesting.
I feel like they rely on that like A-list cast. Obviously, the super funny people in that movie. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams are fantastic in it.
cool. I watched like a kind of funny movie. It was incredibly cringy. Ingrid Goes West.
Nice.
Yeah, I loved it. It was great, but super cringy. The story is I mean, social media, right?
Yeah.
Social
Aubrey
media is
Plaza
playing a huge
Aubrey
part.
Plaza
Yeah,
in-
is
she
like
was
in the on top of her game right now.
She's done some good movies lately, and this is definitely one of them. Her performance of like this obsessed kind of crazy person is like almost over the top, but it's Aubrey Plaza, so it works completely perfectly. It's so good. I kind of like compare it to Spring Breakers because they're both kind of like movies. They're like scathing indictments of like youth today and how they, how they perceive like pop
those
culture
gosh
and
dang
stuff like that.
millennials.
But it's almost like Spring Breakers light, where it doesn't go as dark
Not as
as
experimental in areas, I would imagine.
which totally makes
You
sense.
kind of lost me there. If you're going for a movie like that, you got to go all in, like Spring Breakers.
full in.
Yeah, but I mean, it was good. Aubrey Plaza was great. O'Shea Jackson, I think he was really great in it too. Acting all around super good, but super cringy. If you guys haven't seen it, I totally suggest it.
You got me back in with that.
Yeah,
I love my,
cringe
I love my
humor.
cringe
Who
humor.
doesn't love their cringe humor, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, I can't handle it sometimes.
I like almost
there's-
having to turn my TV off because of how cringe things are.
I'm
So
not even gonna
in.
lie. I was like, my pillows on my couch. There were points when I'm just like hugging them and putting them in front of my face. It was like, oh, I can't deal with
Are you
this.
sure you weren't
Yeah.
too scared?
I mean, it's so cringy that it is scary. Yeah,
Sure you
so
didn't
I
watch
was probably
Veronica?
scared too. Yeah, cool. So it's awesome. I'm super stoked that we got to talk about what we're all watching. But we're gonna switch things up now. We're gonna talk about the 3 biggest stories of the week. I hope you're all ready. We're gonna jump into that next. All right, guys, so it's time to talk about the 3 biggest stories of the week that ended up on our sister show, The CineFiles. We're going to start things off with an actress. She was recently nominated for an Academy Award. Her name is Margot Robbie.
Ah, yes.
And this is pretty big news, guys. She's joining Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt in the iconic Quentin Tarantino's new movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So this was first reported by Deadline Hollywood. And the movie is set in like the new Hollywood era in the 60s. And Leonardo DiCaprio's character plays this like Western star who's having to deal with this shift in cinema, and he's not getting work. And Brad Pitt plays his best friend, who's his like stunt double for all these movies. And Margot Robbie's been cast as Sharon Tate, who during that time, unfortunately, she was murdered by the Manson family. So I mean, the fact that all of those actors are together with that director leads me to think this movie is going to be super awesome. But I mean, Tarantino's kind of fallen on some controversial times. So I mean, how do we think this movie is going to perform? Do we think it's going to hurt the performance at all? I mean, what do you guys think? So let's start with Jem. Jem, you're on the hot seat, my friend.
Oh, yeah. Well, Margot Robbie in I, Tonya was great. So I think...
Phenomenal, right?
Yeah, and like, she's apparently very good at playing real people that actually exist.
That's a very fair point, yeah.
So I think that might be good. And like, the cast is great. And Quentin Tarantino's movies generally tend to do well. Obviously, we haven't really seen a whole lot of backlash against him. Other people have gotten the brunt of the Me Too movement
I guess
more.
in comparison to what other people have been in the news for, it's not as bad. Still like questionable, but okay, that's a fair point.
Yeah, and if James Franco can still get jobs after his backlash,
that's right.
Quentin Tarantino can continue to get success.
Yeah, because James Franco's coming back for season 2 of his HBO
The
show,
Deuce.
The Deuce, exactly. Yeah,
The budget on this movie must be massive.
yeah.
Like
I would
especially Margot Robbie is like the biggest thing in Hollywood right now.
Huge draw. Well, that's the thing is,
I mean,
like,
Brad Pitt?
Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt is like
And
probably
Leo.
asking for like 20 million or
Yeah.
something like that. Leo also probably, the budget on this movie is gonna be huge.
A lot of reunions in this movie. Leo with Quentin, obviously, since Django, and Leo and Margot from
Wolf of Wall Street,
which was kind of her breakout performance. And since then, she's kind of become this more interesting, more like versatile, actress. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see them get back together and like the chemistry between them. What it's going to be.
I don't think I've ever seen like such a breakout role than like Margot Robbie, and like she was basically like an A-list celebrity just from that movie.
Right. But even that story alone, like you're this brand new actress coming out of Australia, and your first movie's with Leo DiCaprio and friggin' Martin Scorsese. Like that's huge.
Pretty good.
Yeah. You're kind of going nowhere but up from there.
Back to Tarantino, I'm kind of glad that he's not doing another Western. Because when it was announced, he was doing like even like when Hateful Eight was announced, it was like the script had leaked. Script had leaked. And usually we already knew all about the movie. Like you could access the script. I'm pretty sure like from the beginning. So like it was kind of like I felt like it was a little of a waste of a few years for his career. Like
there were changes made from the original draft that had leaked, but not anything so massive that the people who had read it went into the theater being like, well, this is not the same movie. That being said, like I like those Western movies, but I am happy to see him kind of, it's still period, obviously. He's doing, like New Hollywood.
But I think the subject matter is like so interesting.
Yeah, 100%.
Sure.
It's almost surprising that there isn't more about that era in Los Angeles.
Especially I feel like the Manson family is like such an interesting,
and there's so many Manson family projects like that you hear about in the works that never come to fruition, some that like keep getting kicked down the field that might eventually one day see the light of day. It's going to be interesting to see like how this specific director and writer tackles that subject matter.
Such a stylized way.
Yeah,
sure,
definitely.
Too. I'm excited. I'm excited. Controversy aside, I think
I mean, like you said,
it could be very interesting, but
the topic is awesome. And there's also I don't know if I think you missed the reunion, but also Brad Pitt and Quentin Tarantino for Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah.
True.
Man,
but it also I'm thinking of things on the fly here. It's funny we said like, oh, he's finally kind of like deviating from the Western. It's like he couldn't quite deviate completely because even like Leo's character in the movie is like a failing Western star. So it's kind of funny. He's still like holding on to that.
I love it.
Yeah, but I'm also super stoked. I'm a huge Leo fan. You guys will come to learn this. I definitely think this movie has like Academy Awards written all over it. I kind of feel like as soon as it was announced that like Leo and even Margot, I think these two are kind of like you got to keep an eye out for them come like Oscar season. They're going to be up there for sure.
The Academy also is very they're very keen on picking movies about old Hollywood and
so true.
Like La La Land, The Artist, all that.
Even most recently, I mean, Shape of Water wasn't directly that, but it had a lot of like the glories of cinema throughout that movie.
Completely.
People love
epics.
that.
Yeah. Cool. So I think we're all excited for this. Yeah. I'm super excited. We were talking about reunions actually before this. The next story we're talking about is another reunion. Jake Gyllenhaal, who starred in Nightcrawler with, but director Dan Gilroy directed. The two are teaming up again. This time, they're teaming up with Netflix for a horror/thriller film. So this sounds super exciting to me as well. But Netflix has released a few original movies now that haven't been, super critically acclaimed. So maybe is that cause for concern? I'm not super sure. I mean, Liam, how about you jump in and share your opinion on that?
The crew behind this, I have faith in, especially like I know Dan Gilroy did after he did Nightcrawler, he did Roman J. Esquire.
With Denzel Washington, nominated for an Oscar Best Actor.
And I heard mixed things. I don't think anybody saw that movie, but Nightcrawler is great, and I think if he's going back to that like thriller-esque type movie, I think it'll be good, and hopefully Jake Gyllenhaal is doing something crazy for it because I think that performance in Nightcrawler is like one of the greatest of this century.
It's also one of the most different performances I've ever seen Jake Gyllenhaal or anyone else really do.
I think that's a really original movie.
Yeah, 100%.
And I've never seen anything like it, to be honest.
Yeah, and that performance is like the whole movie is basically propped up by, you have to believe that this guy is capable of all the things that he's doing. And I think that's kind of the brilliance of that movie, is that like you have this crazy performance and that would have been enough, but then you're surrounding it with like these visuals, which is kind of why I'm excited to see them team up again, because Dan Gilroy is a capable director, and like to get back into that genre, I think it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how kind of Jake Gyllenhaal tops that performance in Nightcrawler, because like you said, awesome performance, the physical like body transformation he had to undergo with that too. So I mean, I'm looking for a curveball in this movie. I don't know what it's going to be.
Maybe it'll
but
be the movie that takes Netflix out of the movie slump that you mentioned earlier.
That's true.
It's
yeah,
weird because they have good movies. I mean, Mudbound was Oscar nominated. Cinematographer was nominated.
I don't feel at home in this world anymore. Which is
super
super
man,
underrated.
very underrated movie.
Nobody
Beasts
talks
of
about
No
it.
Nation.
Yeah,
There are a lot of good Netflix original movies, but the problem is that the ones that they market the hell out of
Are the bad ones.
have been really not doing.
seems like the
well
ones
at
they
all.
spend the most money on.
That's the other thing, is the expensive
Which
kind of
is-
genre movies
makes
like
sense.
Bright, and more recently the
Cloverfield Paradox.
the Cloverfield Paradox.
Oh boy.
But the thing is, these movies do get watched, whether or not they're critically acclaimed.
And technically they're paid for, right? I mean, any
true.
subscriber of Netflix has already bought it.
We already bought
a
these
ticket.
movies.
That's not how they measure success. Is like whether or not people are actually, in the box office numbers are so dependent on we need to get people in seats.
Yeah.
But this is about gaining
time.
subscribers and maintaining subscribers.
I think they're also looking for like the biggest talent, right? Like if you're not on Netflix for some reason and you see like, oh, Netflix has like the new Jake Gyllenhaal movie, you're like, oh, Jake Gyllenhaal's like doing stuff for this like subscription service. I better go like subscribe to it, right?
Yeah.
They're like, I think Netflix is thinking like long term.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even with like the Martin Scorsese Irishman, which
That's it.
apparently is like way over budget right now.
That's
and
the
I'm sure
budget
that-
for that movie is ballooned to I think over $175
That's a lot.
That's
million
crazy.
dollars. So pretty crazy for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's a good argument that like even though, especially like with Netflix pushing out a lot of original content, especially movies now, the only thing they really care is about like how many viewers they get.
Yeah.
And I think that this new Jake Gyllenhaal, Dan Gilroy movie is gonna do just that. I mean, there's like a great supporting cast too. I didn't mention, but Rene Russo is coming back from Nightcrawler as well. Toni Collette, John Malkovich. So that's a pretty good casting, and also Natalie Dyer from Stranger Things. Right. So
Oh, wow.
it's a pretty good cast.
I want to say I think Nightcrawler. I don't know, especially I know in Canada it's been on Netflix for a while, and I think it's like Nightcrawler is one of those movies that like lives on Netflix. Like I'm sure like a lot more people saw that on Netflix than they did in theaters, and I think like that kind of movie works really well because it's like one of those like I don't really want to go to the theater to watch it, but like I'll like sit there and watch it at home with like.
That's fair. Yeah. I definitely saw it in theater. Well,
I saw it in theaters too.
Yeah.
But
So did I. But
I'm a
that's an
weirdo.
interesting point where it's like there are certain genres of movie that entice audiences to come to the theater. I mean, we're seeing it with Black Panther right now, where it's like this big, like action-packed superhero movie. These visual marvels, these epics. No pun intended for Marvels. But those are the kind of movies that drive people into the theaters, and those are the kind of movies that are gonna keep being made at those high budgets. But at the same time, if we want those kind of less big budget genres to exist, it seems like streaming platforms are the only thing keeping them afloat at this point.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, totally. So we're going to deviate just a little bit. We're going to go into a more magical realm, if you will, for the final entry that made our CineFile show. Harry Potter, pretty big book series.
Never heard of it.
Never heard. Liam, you fibbing. No, but huge book series, huge film series. They've even started the Fantastic Beasts series, and a brand new trailer for the sequel dropped earlier this week. But some fans got pretty upset with it.
Larry David in
because
here?
I'm not Larry David. I wish I was as funny as the guy, but no. But yeah, I mean, fans were not laughing at this bit of news to come from the trailer, guys, because apparently, well, not apparently, in the first scene, camera sweeps through beautiful landscape for us, and then, oh, there's Hogwarts, and then witches and wizards just start apparating onto Hogwarts' ground, and fans were like, wait a minute. You can't apparate onto Hogwarts. So obviously they hit the Twitter, they voiced their displeasure, and you know it's a gong show right now. I mean, Jem, you're a big Harry Potter fan.
I like Harry
so
Potter.
do you agree with this, or do you think it's silly for people to get upset over something that's only in a trailer? Like,
Well, yeah, but so there are multiple schools of thought when it comes to apparating in Hogwarts.
School of
should we
thought are you in?
we should get our notebooks out. I feel like this is about to be
Yes,
like
I'm
a
about to
taking us to
class here.
school?
Yeah, I'm going to school you on apparition at Hogwarts. So, like in the books, it's made very clear that during the time of the original septology, this is the first 7 books, it's not possible to apparate into or outside Hogwarts. Except there are circumstances when that did happen in the books. For instance, in Order of the Phoenix, Dumbledore is able to apparate outside of Hogwarts, but he uses Fawkes, his Phoenix. So maybe the magical power of the Phoenix is what's helping him apparate out of Hogwarts.
Okay.
The second idea is that it could be the case that Dumbledore put those wards in place so that no one can come in and go out. So Dumbledore is able to obviously break his own rules.
Right.
But then they argue against this, saying that, but if that was the case, then why did they, in the 6th book, have to go outside of Hogwarts to be able to apparate into Voldemort's cave? So thoughts differ.
Right.
But we should also remember that the Fantastic Beasts movies take place in the 20s.
That's right.
Which is like 60 years before the Harry Potter movies, which means maybe the no apparating rules were put after Dumbledore became the headmaster.
Right. Because that's on social media, on Twitter, obviously, like I mentioned, people are freaking out. They're saying why this isn't possible. But there's another camp that's like, you know what, guys? You're freaking out because, like you mentioned, it's 1927. Maybe there were different
rules didn't exist.
magical laws surrounding the castle at that point.
It's
so.
also, one, way too early to be calling this out because it's just a trailer and we don't know the rest of the story. And 2, J.K. Rowling wrote this movie.
Exactly.
And
she's
she-
involved.
and
Harry
she's, like,
Potter would not
producer.
exist.
I mean,
without her.
Very good points, Liam.
Yeah,
very good
very good
points.
point. And and like just to like follow up on that, I can understand calling it out. I can understand being like, "Hey, isn't it weird that this is happening? I wonder how this." But to be angry about it seems like
Have you ever
Yeah.
met a fandom before?
Oh,
Have you ever
of
seen
course.
one?
No. I it's not surprising to me that this has
Right.
happened. I'm having a hard time keeping up with the logic of it, considering like you have this person who's created this world and they're telling their story, for then the fans to be like, that's not allowed. You're
Can
not
you
allowed to do
imagine
that.
that happened to another franchise, like say Star Wars? And
It
people
happens
were
a lot. It happens a lot. And I
Could
still,
you imagine?
Yeah.
Being
Listen,
sarcastic, it happened
when
to
this
Star Wars.
movie comes out, if that apparition thing is still in the movie, freak out all you want. But like, this movie comes out in what, like 8 months?
November, I
Yeah.
think.
November?
So
Yeah.
a whiles. Yeah.
This is
a
like
whiles.
a cut trailer. Maybe like the person who cut the trailer is like, yeah, this is a cool shot to put in the movie. Let's just,
Yeah.
I'm sure
knowing
there's
the
much more,
controversy
there's
it would
more
have stirred
eyes
up.
on it than
And
that.
these
but,
days, we know that traditionally, I don't know, well, like 90% of any footage you see on trailer will never be on the movies.
Very good point.
yeah.
Right. But I mean,
This is not scientific.
They just use stock footage half the time.
I was thinking conspiracy theorist maybe, but maybe this was all like premeditated. People knew, the editors of this trailer knew Potter fans would cause an uproar over this, because I mean, if you go to YouTube, you look at the #1 trending video, it's
people
that
talking
trailer.
about it, yeah.
It's that trailer, and it's been there for a few days now.
Especially
It's
like,
that engagement.
especially in what, we're in March right now, where people are talking about Marvel and Infinity War. I'm sure they want a little piece of that action.
Oh, you know
they
what?
want a little piece of the talking about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in right there, because you mentioned Avengers: Infinity War. We just finished talking about the 3 biggest stories of the week at the time of writing this. But you know what? We have a little section called the cutting room floor, where we talk about entries that didn't make it, and there might be a little Avengers action in that segment, guys. So we're gonna talk about that just a little bit later. All right, welcome back to the CineFiles, the extended cut. And you know what? If you want to check out the show as an audio podcast, we're on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. So as I mentioned before, it's now time for the cutting room floor. I know I teased you guys with Avengers, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. First, we're going to talk about director Denis Villeneuve. He's from Montreal, Quebec. Represent. Just gonna shout that out there. After the masterpiece that was Blade Runner 2049. He's taking on another cult classic. Oh man, he's so ambitious with his movies, but he's taking on Dune, And he's not just making one movie, guys. He's making 2 Dune movies. So, I mean, Blade Runner 2049 was phenomenal, in my opinion. I'm sure it was phenomenal in all of yours. But yeah. So it was received incredibly well critically, but didn't do super well at the box office. A lot of people just called it like the biggest art film, like the most expensive art film ever made, because it's like, it's a cult film. It had a huge following when the original came out. I don't know if it, I mean, it aged well, but I don't know if it kind of continued that fan base. And Dune seems to be, you know, a lot like Blade Runner 2049 in terms of how cult it is, in terms of like the fan base. So I guess my question is, as good as Denis is as a director, how do we think these movies are going to perform?
I'm surprised. Sorry. I'm surprised that he's getting such a big project after Blade Runner. To be honest.
I'm just gonna jump in real quick. It's funny because you mentioned that, and after he was interviewed after Blade Runner 2049, and he was like, "I'm so proud of it. It's a great film, but there's no way I'm getting a big budget like this ever again." And he's clearly wrong because he's doing Dune 2 movies.
For him to for them to greenlight. I don't know if they've greenlit or whatever. He's just getting ambitious. Yeah. But like to get 2 movies out of this is like pretty crazy, and I don't know that much about Dune, but I heard it's like a super huge universe, and I don't know why.
Yeah, the books are crazy. Books have a huge following. David Lynch tried to tackle Dune.
Famously, Alejandro Jodorowsky years before that wanted to adapt it, but that
concept art was crazy.
Yeah, basically what happened with that project is it was too ambitious. He had all these plans for groundbreaking visuals and introducing elements that had never been seen in films before that, and it never came to fruition. This is like a notoriously tough to tackle franchise, I guess you could say. And it's just, I'm looking forward to his interpretation, but in terms of how it will perform, I really have a hard time believing that it'll outperform something like Blade Runner.
So what I think is, like, the franchise, I think, has immense potential. And you could say that we now have the technology to make amazing movies.
This is true.
We just now have it?
Just now.
Like yesterday.
Exactly.
Every other movie that's come before yesterday has been...
Okay. What I'm talking about is this is the 21st century.
We know what you mean. Yeah.
Right?
Continue, please.
And the franchise is like... It's Game of Thrones-esque with some Star Wars in it because it's spacey, but also there's space magic, which is the essence of Star Wars, basically.
That sounds like the perfect way to sell this movie, although it doesn't sound like a Denis Villeneuve film if you kind of categorize it. But I mean,
it would be great as, like, let's say an HBO miniseries, for instance, in the Game of Thrones style.
Right.
But I kind of agree with the idea that it should be at least 2 movies because this book it's a very thick book.
It's dense.
It's thick.
Right.
And and I'm only talking about the first book in the franchise. There are like a bunch of other books that were written after the first book. I would assume that this movie would focus only on the first one because there's just like ridiculous amount of content in this one anyway.
Right.
I'm personally excited about this movie, and even if it's just gonna be like a cult classic, as it were, I'm proud to be in this Dune cult already, even before the movie has come out, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'm gonna agree. I think it should be a TV show. I mean, like, I think the lesson to be learned from how the Dark Tower did was like take these, like, especially like there's so much like potential in these like huge universe TV shows now that like they're giving anybody a budget to like make something like Game of Thrones.
That's
like every network wants a Game of Thrones.
True.
Yeah, Amazon wants one, Netflix wants one.
Every single network wants one of these huge shows, and like it seems just like wasted potential at this point to like make something like this a 2-part movie when it could be a TV show.
Then how did Lord of the Rings work? Why should
That's a very good point.
Because it was novel. Because no one had done something like that before.
I guess that's true.
I think if there's anybody that's going to be able to do this, it's Denis Villeneuve.
I agree.
I will watch anything that man puts.
I think like
100%.
When Blade Runner 2049 was announced, it was like this is gonna be like awful, right? Like I think a lot of people thought it was like it would be like impossible to remake the classic, you know.
And the thing about Blade Runner 2049 too is, I mean, if they're gonna pump like hundreds of millions of dollars into these Dune movies, they could learn from the mistakes that were made on Blade Runner 2049, not necessarily from like a movie standpoint, but like the promotion of it, because the whole campaign around the promotion of this movie was just like, we don't want to give away too much. We want to keep things secretive. You know, we want it to be very much surprising.
Yeah, they gave away Harrison Ford.
I mean, they gave away
but
that, but they basically, it was on the IMDb. Like, they may as well have put it in the trailer. But I do get what you're saying, Matt, in that they purposefully made the plot ambiguous, which is something that, as like fans of movies, is a big complaint, where it's like, stop showing us the third act. Like, anything in the third act should not be in the trailer.
Yeah.
But and then they did that, and people didn't show up.
They also did make it out to look like an action movie.
True.
Which it is very much
that's
not.
how you have to. I mean, that's how you have to market those movies, man.
That's true.
Yeah.
To get people into this. Into the theater.
If it was just shots of Neo Tokyo, not Neo Tokyo, but if it was just shots of that cityscape, which is what most of the movie is, if that was the trailer, it would have even performed worse, probably.
Except it makes back some of their $100 million budget.
Talking about those cityscapes, though, I know we discussed the idea of maybe putting it on TV, but I just think of like Denis Villeneuve maybe working with Roger Deakins again, and this story would just like easily lend itself to like tremendous visuals. I want to see that on a big screen, you know. So I think we'll end it on that note, and we'll talk about another visually stunning movie, The Avengers: Infinity War.
It's coming soon.
Okay, guys, it's coming soon.
Visually stunning in the same way.
Not in the same way, but I mean, it still has. It's nice on the eyes.
More in its scale than in its beautiful framing of the scale. Let's say.
So, I mean, that's probably the most hyped, the most anticipated movie in the last, I don't know.
I don't think we've seen
definitely of the year,
scale.
2, 3, 4, 5 years maybe.
Yeah.
But so a new trailer just dropped.
Oh yeah,
moments ago.
I mean, the internet's probably exploded as we speak right now.
We haven't seen the response yet.
No.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I mean, I'm sure it's insane. I can't fathom a movie this big. 17, 18 movies lead up to this, pretty
18,
much.
Yeah,
and,
crazy.
To go back to giving stuff away in the trailer, this trailer features like a lot of character interactions between like,
with
just
Thanos?
to name a few, you see Star-Lord and Tony Stark bantering, and like Spider-Man and Doctor Strange like having a conversation, and like those are the things that like I was really excited to see in the movie, and I don't feel like, you know, in the case of Blade Runner, you need to in its failings to demonstrate its plot, it probably like put people away from it. I don't feel like this movie needs to convince anyone. I feel like people know that these characters are going to be, and I wish they would have like saved those moments for further down the line in the actual movie, because now I kind of like, now I can expect like that scene between Star-Lord and Iron Man.
That's what I'm thinking about, like these Avengers movies, and especially Star Wars. It's like all you really need is a teaser trailer, because people are going to see these movies anyways, right? It's like I was sold from the second you said Star Wars. Personally didn't even need a trailer. I think for The Last Jedi, I don't even think I watched the second trailer before seeing the movie. I was like, which
is on the other end of the spectrum. Those movies try and give you as little plot information. Those trailers try and give you as little plot information as possible, and they succeed in that. And then you show up in the movie, and you're like completely blown away, and you do recognize certain shots from the trailer, obviously. But you don't have a context for them. And now I feel like this new Avengers trailer, as hyped as it made me, and as good as it looks, this movie looks amazing. I'm so excited. But like now I kind of know the team ups going into it. Like I'm like, okay, so you're gonna see Iron Man and Star-Lord. And like before this, I was like, there was just the tail of the last trailer where it was Thor and the Guardians, and I was like, oh, that's cool, because we already knew they were both in space. I don't know. Maybe I'm just fanning out a little too hard.
Has it been confirmed how much the Guardians are going to be in it?
They're probably going to be quite.
Do you think that
I think they'll be one
scene with the Guardians is their only scene?
No. They're going to be quite prominent.
They should be prominent. Yeah.
Speaking about
go ahead.
Speaking about big budgets, this movie
might be the biggest.
All like actors who are probably commanding like $10 million budgets.
Every Marvel actor ever, basically.
Yeah.
When they changed the name, it was initially Infinity War 1 and Infinity War Part 2. They've changed the name to Avengers 4. We don't know what it's going to be called. But initially, when they were reporting on it, they had said that the combined budgets of both movies was $1 billion.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Which it's not an exact split, but that would put the budget of this movie at about $500 million.
They're gonna make way more than that.
Yeah. Oh. Well, look.
That's insane.
I think
It's
it
gonna
might
be-
be safe to call this movie like one of the defining movie moment of 2010s even.
Yeah, I agree
It's the
with you.
season
Oh, for
finale
sure.
of the season
What-
1 of
It's
Marvel
the,
Cinematic
it's the
Universe.
culmination. It's the culmination for sure.
There's going to be some interesting turning points in these two movies.
Yeah.
That's going to set the stage for the next 20 years of
Season
comic
two.
book
And
movies.
And then,
Yeah.
that's the thing that makes me mad about these movies is like, this is supposed to be the biggest thing, but then like you just know they're not going to stop here, and like they're going to have to build
yeah.
to a something bigger. But like, what's going to be bigger?
Galactus. I'm just saying.
Oh,
That's right.
name
Fantastic
dropping.
Four.
I'm just saying.
Name dropping.
He's literally bigger than Thanos. He's like a giant.
So then why are they not why are they not fighting Galactus now?
Well, they
then?
didn't own his rights, and they still technically don't. When
Who own-
he's a Fantastic Four villain technically. So
That's lame. And this guy's supposed to be bigger than Thanos,
he's huge. He's enormous. He's planet.
and he's a
He does eat
Fantastic Four
planets.
villain.
Hey, Fantastic
Hey.
Four are a big part of the Marvel universe.
Yes,
okay?
the Fantastic Four are awesome. Don't let those Fox movies.
Isn't Reed Richards the
dissuade-
smartest man in the universe, or is that Hank Pym?
I mean, they're all pretty smart. That's the weird thing about
Isn't
these
there like a
Marvel
ranking
superheroes.
somewhere?
Probably.
Like
Are-
an
We
official-
may have done something similar to that. I can't confirm
Every
or deny.
superhero in the world is not supposed to be able to beat Thanos.
Thanos
He's
is
tough.
strong,
That's
man.
why
Am I
they're
playing
teaming
God
up.
Yeah.
Gauntlet,
Am I
man,
playing
the Infinity.
contrarian too much right now?
I mean, look, we'll see what happens in this movie, but all to say, in the trailer they referenced a moment in the comics during the Infinity Gauntlet storyline where Thanos literally snaps his fingers and eliminates half of all life in the universe. And they're referencing that in this movie. There's two references. It's like he could cause the end of the world in the snap of a finger, and then at one point Thanos literally says like half the world's population will be decimated.
So are half the superheroes gonna die?
No. Maybe one or two.
Someone's
trailer-
gonna die.
The trailer makes it seem like a few of them are going to die.
'Cause
for
that would
sure.
be crazy
There's-
if half the superheroes died. That would be pretty ambitious.
There's-
That's the only way to get
yeah.
Liam into the movie.
Yeah.
He just needs to see
Dude, yeah.
superheroes die.
Jem and I watched the trailer together actually, and there's like that one scene that really stuck with me is just like Thor and Thanos literally is just like holding Thor's head, and I'm like, oh my god, he's gonna
In the first trailer, there
gonna
was a,
squish his head, man.
in the first trailer there was a similar scene with Vision.
With Vision, yeah.
And we also have the ending shot of Cap looking like he's going toe to toe with Thanos.
Yeah.
Bad idea.
That's not a great call.
My
Not
favorite-
a
Yo,
great call.
he's hanging in there though.
Yeah,
My
that was
favorite
really cool. I think that was
Yeah,
my
that's a
favorite
good
shot.
My
That's a
favorite
good
shot in the
to
trailer
end
was the child holding Thanos's
with. Giant
Gamora?
finger.
giant hand.
That's
Is that
Gamora.
Gamora?
Well,
That's how big Thanos is, man. Yeah.
I
I mean,
That's
there's
a
a flashback to when supposedly he
was a child, right?
steals Gamora from her home world and is just like, "You're my kid now."
I thought that was pretty cute. Just like holding the one finger.
You're,
That's,
you're gonna be the only one in the audience going, "Oh, that's so sweet."
That's
yeah,
so funny.
most people watch them for the superhero team ups. I just watch them for
the father-daughter
cute
romances.
Yeah.
That's like Marvel
Romance.
trying.
Oh, sorry.
Jesus Christ.
That's like
Excuse me.
Marvel trying to
Relationships.
humanize Thanos,
Yeah.
even though he's not a human. But you
look
know
how
what I
big
mean.
his
Yeah,
hands
yeah.
are.
They're
Look, he's
gonna-
caring for this child here
It is
after
reported,
stealing.
It is reported that they're gonna try and give him like some kind of sympathetic motivation.
He's
I
evil, though.
Yeah, he's like super
don't want
evil.
that.
Like he's like real
Sympathetic
evil.
villains seem to work for Marvel.
So far, we've had like two. So
Well,
Loki?
they figured out that it's working, so
Yeah,
they're
now
like,
they're
let's
gonna
do it for
every
every single
villain
villain.
is gonna
Yeah,
be
exactly.
That's actually an interesting point. Do you think he's gonna go down as like the most memorable Marvel villain?
I think we've had the most memorable Marvel villain.
Loki?
No, it's Eric Killmonger. From
Yeah.
Black
It is
Panther.
Killmonger.
I think that was.
Wow.
I was gonna say those are definitely the two finalists. So you think you
So
don't
why,
think
why
Thanos
aren't they
is
fighting Killmonger?
Spoilers.
spoiler?
moving
Liam, we
on.
can't talk about spoilers, okay? So I mean, look, this caused huge discussion amongst us, and I'm sure the internet and groups of friends across the world are
going more
arguing and going cuckoo bananas over this as well.
right.
So I think that's a solid way to end the show, guys. Thank you so much for your input, your opinions, and guys, to all you listening, thanks for listening to the extended cut. So be sure to subscribe to Mojo Talks. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. And we'll say bye for now. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Thanks for watching. And don't forget to tune into our Mojo Talks channel for the CineFiles Extended Cut. Link in the description below.